Just give me the hard stuff, make me think. Let's have a good time.
That's it. I love it, man. Adam, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show.
Yeah, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So let's begin our journey into your world by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed everything about what we do. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you live life and do things today?
That's such a great question, man, and I'm glad you asked it. 2020, I was in flight school, kind of through my transition out of the Army. I went to flight school. I became a commercial pilot. I was finishing up when the pandemic happened. I was up there in the PNW, so that'll give you some perspective on kind of the rest of the story. Um, I was finishing up CFI so that I could like actually start building time to get to the airlines, the whole rigmarole that you have to do to have a career in aviation. And then the pandemic comes and it locks everything down and it shuts down flight training. And nobody knows. I mean, I didn't even get to graduate college. Like my college graduation was virtual, right? Because we weren't allowed to walk across a stage and whatnot. And so it really opened my eyes to a lot of things, man. A lot of how the population will just cave to some pretty ridiculous, what I thought were ridiculous. And I'm my own man, my opinions are my own, but really just kind of changed the entire landscape and showed me that it was possible to do more via the online world and really hammered home the idea of online entrepreneurship and making money online. And so from there, it would be a couple more years before I would hit all the way rock bottom, have my turning point, and actually set out building the things that I'm building now. But it really showed me that what was possible, how connected we could still be, even if we weren't allowed to, be in each other's presence. We could figure out a way.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I know you got your podcast, you're an entrepreneur, but if I was to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and one of the kids was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Man, I advocate for veterans to live better lives. That's what I do. That's really the core of all three of the major things that I have going on or aimed at is just helping people take the next positive step on their journey, and knowing that I get to have a hand in that is everything that I ever needed.
What did you want to be when you were a kid? Was it the military?
Man, when I want to see, this is another really good question. I remember being a little kid. I always wanted to fly, but that was never going to happen for me as far as the military went because of my eyesight. I've been in glasses since I was 2 years old. But the first time I ever got on an airplane, I saw the guys in the business suits carrying the briefcases. And so for me, I didn't know if this was like a real career path or not, but I wanted to be a traveling businessman.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I mean, we've kind of come full circle because here we are. It
Yeah.
just doesn't look like suits and ties and briefcases for me. It's laptop bags and shorts and a tank top because that's who I am.
I dig it. So let me ask you this, as far as mental health and being a military veteran is concerned. My dad was in the Air Force. He was originally from Brooklyn and then he moved to Long Island, but he came to Kansas City and got stationed at Richards Gebaur. And I remember all of his buddies, because he sold cars, they would have all of these stories that they would just bury. It seems like there was an old mentality in the military where when you came back, you just didn't talk about it. And because
Yeah.
it could be really bad. It seems like now the double-edged sword of what's going on with the mental health of that community is that people are advocated more to let it out, to release it, to deal with it instead of burying it. But there's all of these issues that I'm sure you're very cognizant that's happening. Do you feel like that's been a sea change in the way that military mindset has been?
Uh, I don't know that I feel like that is a sea change. This is what I'm actually trying to change. This is what I'm advocating for is tell your story.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I'm seeing, and to your point, that's exactly what happens is we bury all that crap, right? And the issue with that is like we're not supposed to bury that stuff. That's actually not. It's kind of the opposite of what you're supposed to do. So I started all of this, just thinking like, man, I feel so alone in what I'm going through. And so through storytelling and telling my own story and helping through my podcast, other veterans tell, their stories of transition and what they're doing on the other side of it, building that highlight reel of their career. So you know that they're a real human and did tough things. helping them tell their stories and getting that out there is letting the rest of the community know you're not alone, and it's helping others to open up and overcome the things that ail them that they're burying deep down inside, running away from, trying not to deal with.
So take me back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised? What were these elements of getting in the military, being an entrepreneur, now having a podcast, storytelling? How did all these seeds get planted?
That's a good question, man. That's a really good question. I grew up pretty poor in southern Indiana, the Midwest, Poseyville, Indiana, a little tiny town. The biggest city you would know of is Evansville, probably. I grew up in a broken home. My parents divorced when I was really young. I had a very controlling mom who was always moving the goalpost and who taught me that love is based on performance. Like the level of love that you get is performative. So how you perform. I also had a younger brother and sister, so I fell into that protector role. My mother also tried to keep us from my father, going as far as trying to have him arrested by, setting foot in the driveway on his weekend to pick us up. So for me, it was really about trying to get away from that situation as I was growing up. I was also bullied relentlessly as a kid. I'm a product of the '80s, and I wore glasses, and I had to patch my eye. So I'm sure you probably remember what that was like for people. Now it's cool to wear glasses, even if you don't need them, which really still kind of grinds my gears, if you will, to this day. I just knew there was more to the world than Southern Indiana. That's really the story. I was bit by the travel bug when I was super young. I don't know where it comes from, and so that was my way out. Was join the army. The recruiter got me. You're going to be PCS every 2 or 3 years. The joke ended up being on me because I only had two duty stations in the 13 years I was in, and then was in the Middle East for the rest of the time. But I love to travel. I knew the world was a much bigger place than Southern Indiana, and I didn't want to be a farmer or a teacher or work in the bar or work for somebody else. It wouldn't be till many, many years later, almost 12 years later, that I would meet one of my very best friends in the army who is just everything to him is like, we could build a business doing this, we could build a business doing that, and really started to inspire the entrepreneurial bug in me, so much so that we're still not even out of the army yet. We've got those giant sticky post-it notes on my living room wall, and we're coming up with business ideas and trying to pitch them, and carrying that into college, into some business incubators, and really going hard in that. And then later, while I was in college, after I got out of the army, kind of following the TAP blueprint, I was managing a gun store, and it was great. The owner was there most of the time when I first started, and then progressively as I went on over that year, it got to the point where he didn't show up at all. So I was managing payroll, I was ordering, I was doing all the NFA stuff, running the background checks, stocking inventory, writing people's paychecks and paying them, and I really found out I had a knack for business, and really didn't want to do it for somebody else. Wanted to figure out how to do it for myself.
I remember that we come from the same era, the relentless bullying in the 80s. And I remember being in the fourth grade in the mid 80s. And my teacher, Mrs. Slaughter, got up and said, "We're going to go around the room and I want you to tell me the name that you're called all the time." And literally went through the whole room. And they used to call me, because my last name is Dimino, they would call me, instead of amino acids, it was Dimino acids, or they all, for some reason, thought I was Hispanic and they always called me a beaner. And all of us went around and said it. And I think we got our marching orders that if they heard any of those names, and I think it ended. It was one of the most effective, but it's weird how that stuff, kids are just so horrible, you know?
Yeah.
Just they just go right for the jugular, you know?
Well, and for me, I didn't really have an escape from it because, I'm being bullied at school, but then I'm going home and being bullied by my own mother,
Yeah.
right? Not realizing it at the time. And, I'm 40 years old right now. You would think that like being called Captain Hook because I got an eye patch on or four eyes really shouldn't bother me. But when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you're dealing with the broken home stuff. You don't have any friends because your quote unquote friends are the ones who are picking on you the most. It's tough, man. It really is tough, and I
Yeah.
hate bullies to this day. Like, let
Yeah.
me find a bully. I'll show you what a bully is.
Exactly. Did you ever watch the show The Middle, the one that was based in Indiana with the
I didn't.
Okay, because when you said that, I remember that show. I got hooked on it. It was really good. So, but it's a lot of it's local flavor. I mean, there's a lot of Indiana references, and if you ever have a hankering, you may not, because it could bring up memories that you don't want to deal with from Indiana. But it's interesting.
I'll have to check it out for
Yeah,
sure. I don't,
yeah.
the memories don't scare me, man. I've done tons and tons of work through plant medicine on myself, and so in a really great place, man. Really, really great place, and
That's
it's
good.
really cool getting to do this work on myself and really discover like who I am and what I stand for and all of that.
How much fun is podcasting for you? Because it just, for me, I love this world, and to be able to do what you're doing to help others seems like it's perfect.
It's the best word to describe it is perfect. This podcast, it's not nearly as big as it could be. There's a ton of things that I could do, mid clips, shorts, promote more of it, talk more about it. It's created all of the opportunity that I have in my life. I'm a poor kid from Indiana who's not supposed to experience this much opportunity. Last year, the biggest lesson I learned was a lesson in learning how to say no to opportunity. And that's why it's so incredible. The caveat to that, I mean, the other side of that also is it's so rewarding. It's cathartic for me. I get to have conversations with brothers and sisters that served at the same time or before me, or our paths crossed and we never even realized it. And then through the stories, through digging into the highlight reels of their careers or hearing their transition stories, we get to have that kind of bond or that connection and see some things. I learn things about myself all the time through having this format. I'll probably walk away from this recording and learn something about
Yeah.
myself. You know what I mean? And it's just incredible, man. It's not work to me. It's something I very much look forward to doing. I particularly when I'm not the one doing the interviewing, I really, really love being a guest on podcasts. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's like living the life, dude.
Yeah.
Like this is work,
Yeah. Right. Well,
you know.
I see it as a modern version of therapy. I mean, that was one of the outgrowths of the pandemic was that podcasting finally blew up and became popular culture. Because I've been doing it since 2011. I have a jazz radio show. So I was interviewing musicians and I was putting it out. And I didn't even know if I called it podcasting. It was just, they were just interviews. And then it became this big thing. But I think if it's done with all of your heart in the right place, this is the place where you can figure so many things out, learn things, exchange ideas. Because when we were growing up, we had like before cable, there was like 5 or 6 channels, very limited
That's it.
voices, right?
That's it, man. I mean, it was Tom Brokaw,
Uh-huh.
right? That it was Paul Harvey. I love Paul Harvey on the
Paul was
radio,
great.
right? And just a couple other that are escaping me right now. And growing up in Southern Indiana, being poor, we only had those 4 channels on a turn dial TV. It
Hmm.
didn't come in the clearest, so the only other thing I had was Notre Dame football. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. So Paul Harvey, Casey Kasem's another one,
Oh
the top
yeah.
40. Remember
Yeah.
that? So
Man
so
alive.
those are the voices that now I have access to all kinds of voices, man. I've taught myself so much from having access to AI and the internet. It's why I haven't, all the partnerships that I have, the podcast, I taught myself how to do all of this because information is so easily accessible, right?
Yeah, for sure. So who was that hero for you, that inspiration that allowed you to get through the tough times, to find this path, to carve out this world that you're in right now? Who was that person for you?
My dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's my hero, man. You know, my dad didn't come to my football games. He didn't come to the sports because he was busy putting food on the table, working 60, 70 hours a week in a trade job, paying a ridiculous amount of money in child support because Indiana is such a backward state when it comes to that. And, then dealing with my vindictive mother. And so he taught me the value of hard work and that if you put your mind to anything, you can do it. He also allowed me to be a kid where I wasn't getting that when I was with my mother, right? Like allowed me to figure things out, make mistakes. But when it was time to chew my ass, he was going to chew my ass too and let me know, this is where you screwed up and why you don't screw up. There's always a lesson in that. And the one thing that still to this day, it just oh man, better than I love you. It's I'm proud of you, son. I've looked at what you've done. I may not understand it, but I'm proud of you. I'm 40 years old. Like you would think that doesn't mean anything at this point because I'm very much my own individual. But I did yesterday. I just got a random text from him yesterday. He's like, "Hey," I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "I love you and I'm proud of you." Just
Yeah.
out of nowhere. I was like, "Is everything okay?" You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
that's what I would expect to see out of anybody who claims someone is their hero is like Are they doing those things that let them know maybe he wasn't always present for whatever reason, but he's always paying attention?
So let me ask you this. If you could have a dream guest on your podcast, anybody in the world, who would you love to talk to?
Sean Ryan.
Okay.
And it has to be Sean Ryan because Sean Ryan is the reason I have this podcast. He's the reason I discovered plant medicine and was able to heal myself. He's the reason that I've partnered with a plant medicine retreat and I go deeper into that work as a facilitator, a co-facilitator. He's responsible for me changing my life. And someday I will have him on this show, on my show, not your show. Sorry.
No, no, I dig it. So do you think we're ever going to get to a place where the pharmaceuticals won't be the number one option and we can get plant-based, get more logical remedies into our existence, or do you think the behemoth is just too big?
No, brother. If I have anything to do with it, I think we're well on our way.
Yeah.
Just look at what's happening in the current landscape. For the last 2 years, it's becoming more mainstream. You've seen MDMA trials, you've seen psilocybin trials be approved by different government things. You just saw last year they decided not to take MDMA and psilocybin off the scheduled list. However, that caused a bunch of controversy there. I think there's a couple politicians in Texas really fighting for it. You have, Heroic Hearts Project, which is the organization that sponsored me to do my first retreat and saved my life. I've said that very publicly ad nauseum. They opened their first psilocybin retreat in Oregon last year. So I think we're starting to see this change. My concern is this stuff needs to be done the right way, and it doesn't need to become just a money grab, which is a big kind of concern of mine. I see it happening already, and I don't want it to happen. You know what I mean? Like the stuff is intense, the stuff is transformational when done correctly. And so I think it's only a matter. It's just like cannabis legalization, man. Like it's only a matter of time before it's federally legal. I think the same thing, particularly with the current administration and their push to really make everything on the backside of serving your country better for us. I think it's only a matter of time.
So let me ask you this. What is the motivator for you every day to wake up and to do this work that you do, to do the podcast, to do the work that you do, to remain hopeful? What is that motivation? And to take care of your own soul. What is that collective effort for you every day?
To be the guy I didn't have.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Veterans getting out are lied to. They're primed through the TAP program. I love the Army, so nobody twists my words. I love my career. I love the Army very much. I think the military is an incredible opportunity for people to set themselves free from whatever situation they come from. I just think that they can do better on the backside of that, and so that's it, man. It's not necessary for us to have to hit rock bottom and start considering taking our own lives. We don't need to go that route. And there are several things that we can do, to curtail all of that and set ourselves up for success. And so that's what I'm here to do. I don't make any money on veteran advocacy. That all comes from the AI company. So not concerned or even thinking about monetizing my knowledge and my philosophies and just the life that I've lived and telling my story for the veteran advocacy stuff. Hopefully the podcast will grow to a point where I can make some sponsorship money or something like that. But as far as taking money out of veterans' pockets to give them my knowledge, that's never going to be a thing. I just want to be the guy I didn't have. I want to touch, that one step in somebody's journey that gets them to where they're trying to go. And that's enough for me. That's enough to fill my cup up, man. Knowing that I had a part in your journey. That's it.
So it's very clear in your story already that we've talked about that there's been a tremendous amount of evolution, not only as a person, but as a professional. What's the biggest risk along that journey that you've taken? Entrepreneurs, we always talk about there's got to be some level of risk. What's the biggest one you've taken?
Betting on myself. Seriously, being an entrepreneur, it's not as scary as everybody makes it out to be. Everybody talks about the risk, the risk, the risk. I think the biggest challenge is just accepting that everything you do in life is risk. If you're working a 9 to 5 or a career and something feels off to you, you're risking regretting the rest of your life by staying in that career. So how hard could it be to bet on yourself and take a risk on yourself and build what you want. And here's the secret: nobody has a clue what they're doing when they decide to become an entrepreneur. You just that's part of it. You have to figure it out. And all along the way, I still don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. I have a pretty good idea of what's worked for me this far. I double down on that and keep going. And then things happen that inform the rest of the journey. So for me, it's really just about betting on yourself. That's a hard thing to do because we're not taught how to do that. We're taught how to play in society's box and listen to what everybody else's vision for our life should be. And I don't think that's right, man. I think, that's where the risk comes in.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into that version of you right before you join the military, and this journey began. And you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated. What advice would you impart?
Three things. I would tell myself to not let the army become my entire identity, which is kind of hard to do because I joined at 17 and got out at 30. However, I would give myself the advice is like, while you're in, do something to figure out who you are without the uniform. That something needs to give you purpose. It needs to fill your cup up. And then I would also tell myself, do not be afraid to build relationships with people. Learn how to build relationships with people because I just had this epiphany last week. It's a little mini epiphany. It's probably not an epiphany for some, but people are the key to your success in life. Period. End of story. Without people, you don't get anywhere. Nobody gets anywhere alone. And the sooner you realize that, and the sooner you start building those quality relationships with people, the better off you're going to be.
So let's say you walk into a room of everybody that's listened to you in your podcast or that has known you in a business sense, anybody that was in the army with you, and you could walk to the front of that room and tell them a fun story about you. Maybe the first concert you went to, maybe just a really fun adventure that you were on that would kind of humanize you in a different way. What story would you tell that room?
Oh man, I would probably tell them that, you know, just because I have this image that I've built for myself now doesn't mean I was always a perfect human. In fact, I say this a lot. I was a mediocre soldier. If I knew when I was in what I know now about myself, I would have been a stellar soldier. Like I was very mediocre soldier. But if a dumb infantry guy can figure this stuff out, so can anybody else. Like just, just use my story and all the things that I've done, just start doing something. That's what I would want to tell them. Like, you don't give yourself enough credit, and you should really give yourself more credit because you are way more capable than anybody's ever going to give you credit for.
So, of everything that you've done, accomplished, more importantly, evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
This is kind of a trick question because this is my own kind of internal battle. I don't know that I'm really that proud of anything that I've done. I think maybe the biggest thing that I'm proud of is I'm going on almost 2.5 years of losing over 100 pounds and maintaining it. And right after I lost that 100 pounds, I was in the gym and I looked in the mirror, I took a selfie, and I actually made a post on LinkedIn about it. And I said, this is the first time in my 39 years of life I've ever been able to look at myself in a mirror and say, I'm proud of you. And so that's probably the one thing I'm most proud of is just my ability to have completely turned my life around.
So, at the end of the day, everyone out there has a perception of you family, friends, all of your listeners, everyone that you work with, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I really think I'm the guy I didn't have, man. I think I have the proof now. I have the emails, I have the DMs, I have the comments on, random posts at random times. I get the phone calls. Hey man, I love what you're doing. I needed to hear this in this moment. You have no idea how much I needed to hear this and how much it's going to help me. So I think that is my perception of myself is like I'm just the guy I didn't have, which is what I set out to do.
So, we get off this call, time machine pulls up. You can go anywhere in the history of the American military and see one thing happen. Where would you go? What would you want to see with your own eyes?
Ooh. I've never been at. Usually, it's like if you could go anywhere in history, that's an easy answer. But American military history, probably the Revolution, man. I would have to say, like, how did we get here? Like, how did the greatest country that's ever existed become the greatest country that's ever existed? And what was that like? I think that's where I'd have to go.
Right on. So if anybody wants to tune into the podcast, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
You find everything I'm doing on LinkedIn under Adam Peters. That's the easiest way probably to get a hold of me. I have a website called thestrategicveteran.com. And then the podcast is literally on all podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Megaphone, all the other Stitcher, all the other little, if you're a podcaster, all the little tiny ones that nobody's
Yep.
ever heard of that
Yep.
really do drive a lot of traffic as I'm learning. So yeah, that's it. And look, if you guys go to LinkedIn, you'll see I got a lot of followers. I mean, it is a lot for LinkedIn. It's not a lot for Instagram or Facebook. However, don't think that I'm unapproachable. I answer every single DM. I give my calendar link out to everybody who asks me for time. I mean what I say and I say what I mean when I really do want to talk to everybody who needs help. And I want to try and just be an ear or give advice or mentorship wherever it's needed.
I would think after this half hour here, everybody would believe that. So, Adam, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, man.
Brother, thank you for having me, giving me a platform to get in front of my audience and yours, and so let people know what I'm doing, man. I'm really grateful.
It's been an honor, man. Thank you, sir.